Hello everyone. Today we are going to learn Chapter 16, Country Risk Analysis. The learning objectives include 1. Identify the common factors used by MNCs to measure country risk. 2. Explain how to measure country risk. 3. Explain how MNCs use the assessment of country risk when making financial decisions. 4. Explain how MNCs can prevent host government takeovers. What is country risk analysis? Country risk is the potentially adverse impact of a country's environment on an MNC's cash flows. An MNC conducts country risk analysis when it applies capital budgeting to determine whether to implement a new project in a particular country or to continue conducting business in a particular country. Political risk characteristics including the attitude of consumers in that host country or actions of the host government, blockage of foreign transfer, and currency inconvertibility. Wars, inefficient bureaucracy, or corruption, all those are important country risk characteristics. Financial risk characteristics including economic growth, influenced by interest rate, exchange rate, and inflation. Macroeconomic assessment of country risk represent an overall risk assessment of a country and considers all variables that affect country risk except those are firm-specific. Macro assessment of country risk involves assessment of a country as it related to the MNC's type of business. Now we come to a summary of this chapter. The characteristics used by MNCs to measure a country's political risk include the attitude of customers towards purchasing locally produced goods, the host government's action towards the MNC, the blockage of foreign transfer, currency inconvertibility, war, bureaucracy problem, and corruption. These characteristics can increase the cost of international business. The characteristics used by MNCs to measure a country's financial risk are the country's gross domestic product, interest rate, exchange rate, and inflation rate. The techniques typically used by MNCs to measure the country risk are the checklist approach, the Delphi technique, the qualitative analysis, and inspection visits. Since no one technique covers all aspects of country risk, a combination of those techniques may be used. An overall measure of country risk is essentially a weighted average of the political and financial factors that are perceived to constitute country risk. Each MNC has its own view as to the weight and should be assigned to each factor and its own view about each factor's importance as related to its business. Thus, the overall rating for a country varies among MNCs. Once country risk is measured, it can be incorporated into a capital budgeting analysis by adjusting of the discount rate. The adjustment is somewhat arbitrary, however, and may lead to improper decision-making. An alternative method of incorporating country risk analysis into capital budgeting is to explicitly account for each factor that affects country risk. For each possible form of risk, the MNC can recalculate the foreign project's net present value under the condition that the event, such as blocked fund or increased taxes, occurs. MNCs can reduce the likelihood of a host government takeover of its subsidiary by using a short-term horizon for their operations, whereby the investment in the subsidiary is limited. In addition, reliance on unique technique or technology that cannot be copied, local citizens for labor, and local financial institutions for financing may create some protection from the host government.